Before we set the ball rolling on this one, it is essential to crunch a big freaking number. 51,299 units of electric two-wheelers were sold in India in July 2023. And out of those units, 18,333 units were sold by Ola Electric. And that boils down to around 35% of market share. And if you ask us, that is absolute dominion. But Ola Electric, it seems to be hungry for more, hungry to end the ice age. And the S1 Air that we have here today with us is another major step towards that because it is a more affordable alternative to the S1 Pro. But I'm not going to say the most affordable one because there's another one coming in the name of S1 X, and Ola is promising that it is going to be priced below the 1 lakh rupee price mark. But today, we are just going to focus on the S1 Air. This is Anand Pandey, you're watching BBC Top Gear Mag India, and this is the first ride review of the Ola S1 Air. Now before we get under its skin, let's boil down the aesthetic differences that it has over the S1 Pro, because there aren't many. Now starting with the steel units that we find here instead of the alloy ones that we find on the S1 Pro. Now there are a lot of many cost-cutting measures that we see on the S1 Air, including that one. As we move towards the side, we get to see blacked out body panels instead of body colored panels that we find on the S1 Pro. And since it is based on the generation 2 of Ola Electric scooters, the S1 Air, it makes do with a flat footboard as opposed to the spinal one that we used to find on the S1 Pro earlier. Now it means that you can store a lot of stuff on the floorboard, which wasn't possible at all in the previous iterations of the S1 Pro. Another visual difference that it has over the previous iterations of the S1 Pro is the grab rail, because we used to find a split one on the S1 Pro earlier, but now it gets a tubular, round-shaped one on the S1 Air. Now that we have talked about the visual differences that it has over the S1 Pro, it is now time to list down the mechanical ones because there are a lot of them, given the fact that the S1 Air is based on a new platform. And because of that, it now gets conventional telescopic forks up front and twin shock absorbers at the back, as opposed to the monoshock ones that we used to find on the S1 Pro earlier at the front and at the rear as well. Now, we tried asking Ola officials that what was the reason behind this switch, especially when they have already mentioned in their previous presentations that they used to think that the monoshock at the front was a better alternative to the telescopic forks. But now, given this switch, they didn't have any particular answer. But we cannot wait to take it out on the real world and test it out in real world conditions. Another aspect where Ola Electric has implemented some cost-cutting measures is the display. While the S1 Air retains the same full-color 7-inch touchscreen TFT dash, it has a lower resolution as compared to the S1 Pro. However, when it comes to the features and widgets that come packed within the TFT cluster, it retains them all. To bring the overall cost down of the S1 Air, Ola Electric has implemented many cost-cutting measures, including the elimination of disc brakes at both the ends, because the S1 Air, it makes do with drum brakes at the front and at the rear as well. Now when it comes to the overall battery capacity, it has been brought down to 2.9 kWh as opposed to 4 kWh battery pack that we find on the S1 Pro. And now as a result, the 2.9 kWh battery pack is now mated to a simpler hub-mounted 4.5 kW motor as opposed to the mid-mounted 8.5 kW motor that we find on the S1 Pro. Another aspect where the S1 Air slightly misses out on is the hyper mode, the much talked about hyper mode of the Ola S1 Pro. But another fact that you should really consider is that it still manages to clock 0 to 40 km per hour in just 3.3 seconds while retaining a top speed of 90 km per hour. But another fact here is that it weighs just 108 kilograms, so that is around 13 kilograms lighter than the S1 Pro. EVs are silent. I know that, since I haven't been living under a proverbial rock, but the thing is, the S1 Air is silenter, if that's a word. For reference, the Ather 450X has a certain whine associated with its riding experience, but that whine is absent on the S1 Air. Refinement is another area where the S1 Air scores some big points. When it comes to the overall performance on offer, the S1 Air feels slower compared to the bonkers S1 Pro. It also has a slightly lower top speed of 90 km per hour as opposed to 115 km per hour that we see on Pro's instrument cluster. While the S1 Pro takes only 3 seconds to clock 40 km per hour from standstill, the S1 Air, it takes 3.3 seconds, and that shows in the real world too. Our ride route was restricted to just a small stretch of road alongside the Ola Future factory. But even this stretch was enough to establish that despite the less powerful motor, the S1 Air is by no means slow. In the sport mode, it goes on to clock 80 km per hour with relative ease, and given a longer stretch, 90 km per hour also appears on the speedometer. It even shoves you back a little, letting you know that the electrons are hard at work. But the thing is, the power delivery is very erratic. Since there is no hyper mode on the S1 Air, I settled for the sport mode, but the on-off throttle transitions had a mind of their own. Throttle calibration is something that has troubled Ola scooters, and the S1 Air suffers with the same fate. While it won't spoil your overall ride experience, more finesse in this department would be more than welcome. As mentioned earlier, the S1 Air has lesser range too. The ARI claimed range stands at 125 km, so we are looking at a real-world range of around 100 km. And from a basic home charger, it should take 5 hours to charge the battery to its full capacity. The most prominent change that the S1 Air has received mechanically in terms of riding dynamics is the introduction of conventional telescopic forks up front and twin shock absorbers at the back, which replace the monoshock units that we used to find earlier on the S1 Pro. The suspension setup strikes a nice balance between ride quality and handling, because the S1 Air, it feels confident on its feet while also offering pliant ride quality. However, we cannot wait to test it more, since the stretch that was assigned to us didn't have many bumps. Another difference that the S1 Air has over the S1 Pro is that it gets drum brakes at both ends. While the bite and feedback from this setup seemed adequate enough for the performance, the brake levers were throbbing a lot for some reason while braking with normal force applied. Now, this might not have affected the overall braking performance, it did spoil the ride experience a little. The S1 Air might have lost some things along the way, but it also has gained something: affordability. Because you see, not everyone wishes to be in the hyper mode or have a great range, and for those people, the S1 Air might be a better fit. However, the overall ride experience could have been a little smoother, especially when it comes to on-off throttle transitions. It is about time that Ola Electric addressed these issues, because on paper at least, the S1 Air sounds like a very promising proposition. Thanks for watching this video till the end. This is Anand Pandey from BBC Top Gear Mag India signing off. And if you have still any questions left regarding the S1 Air, the comment section is all yours. Utilize it, and I'll get back to you with all the right answers. I'll see you around.